the real substantive part of that story is when people achieve the quality of life, right? That's that wealth building or wealth creation vehicle called your business. And most clients that we run into, somewhere along the journey of entrepreneurship, people lose sight of why they did it in the first place.
Look into his eyes. They're the eyes of a man obsessed by
success.
Eyes that mock our sacred institutions. Bedroom eyes, they call them in a bygone day.
Sex desire is the most powerful of human desires. When driven by this desire, men develop keenness of imagination, courage, willpower, persistence, and creative ability unknown to them at other times. So strong and impelling is the desire for sexual contact that men freely run the risk of life and reputation to indulge in. When harnessed and redirected along other lines, this motivating force maintains all of its attributes of keenness of imagination, courage, etc., which may be used as powerful creative forces in literature, art, or in any other profession or calling, including, of course, the accumulation of riches. Napoleon Hill.
Welcome to the Little Blue Pill for Business podcast, where it's all about getting it up and keeping it up. And yes, we're talking about revenue and profits, but I know that it's all about 6 inches between your ears. So I interview some of the hottest people in the industry that are blowing and going, so we can help you get in on some action. So if you like a little tongue in cheek and not just physically, you're in the right place. Today, we are jumping in bed with my most amazing guest, Rob. Rob, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Always a blast, Michelle. Thank you.
Awesome. So give everybody the highlight of who you are and what you do for business.
Yeah, I own a company by the name of Cogent Analytics. That's what we call the mothership, although I do have 7 or 8 other companies that I am either full owner or have a group of partners.
He's polyamorous
represent...
in business. It's good.
Yeah, I'm an idiot, right? So we represent small business owners. We represent entrepreneurs. It's been my passion for 20 plus years. So for us, it's all about helping clients get what they want, because the crazy that usually is being an entrepreneur, most people don't start with an understanding of how crazy it is. And one day you woke up and ask yourself, well, is this what I really intended? And that's usually the kind of phone calls that we get, which is system, process, people, controls, biz dev, running the business of the business, Michelle. So that's really my passion.
I love it. So how did you get into that as your thing?
I fell off a truck and bumped my head. No.
I woke up one hot morning and went, oh, this is a hot mess.
I was a pretty young guy, fresh out of the military. And I started out like everybody does, JOB. And I had my first equity at a pretty young age. And my partner and I, over a period of about 10 years, we built and then subsequently sold one. And then I sold out to him about 18 months later. And, I was going to build my own thing and finally be that 100% stakeholder. And I woke up in the middle of the night and told my wife I was going to interview for some jobs, and the rest of the life took over. So here I find myself back in entrepreneurship after 11 years, but for 10 years, I had the privilege of working with entrepreneurs under somebody else's banner. So I was a business analyst, and I got a chance to I probably had 1,200 companies under my belt, 1,200 clients that I helped change their life. And, now we do that as an entity. So that's how I fell off the truck.
Nice. So for somebody who doesn't know what a business analyst is, other than in the stock trading kind of realm of it, what did you do particularly for your clients?
So as a serial entrepreneur before I became an analyst, right? What the best way to describe it is, there are 4 critical elements of any business. Whether you're a $200,000 business or a $2 billion business, you have the activity of selling or business development, which is sales and marketing. You have organizational engineering, right hats, right heads. You have process or effective process management, and then you have measurement. So most people, when I say measurement, they think financial and balance sheet. And I'm like, okay, yes, you look at the financial balance sheet, but at the end of the day, you're really managing during the game. So it's the type of performance indicators that you have in each one of your elements. So my job was to go in and look in a holistic way, tip to tail, on those areas of effectivity and make a client. I mean, at the end of the day, it's really about making a client more profitable, have more cash flow, and increase equity value. Now, the real substantive part of that story is when people achieve the quality of life, right? That's that wealth building or wealth creation vehicle called your business. And most clients that we run into, somewhere along the journey of entrepreneurship, people lose sight of why they did it in the first place. So we try to understand the client as much as we try to understand the business.
I love it. All I hear you say is things like measurement and performance.
Yeah.
My brain goes somewhere else.
The 6 inches between your ears, but I like the initial pause when you did that, Michelle.
So when you're talking about analyzing their company and what's going on, because a lot of companies think, well, I'm doing great. My cash flow is fantastic. Like what? We got a ton of revenue. What? So what kind of things happen that people don't realize are actually bottlenecks or kind of the deconstruction of an ideal company setup?
Well, see, what you just said is the most dangerous words, because most people think cash flow is what I have in my bank account. So, I mean, if I have money in my bank, I might as well write a check again. I'm doing great. And I say that kind of sort of as a joke, but it's not. I mean, I can't tell you how many turnarounds I've had to do over the last 20 plus years of my career with, I call it cancer without the pain. You may have moments of cash flow, but if you look at your AR, AP, debt service, what you owe to Uncle Sam, and the most horrific story I can tell you is how many clients literally borrow off their credit card to pay their tax obligation because at some point in time they thought they had money in the bank and then they took a distribution for themselves. They thought that was their money, right? So I want to be really careful the way I answer this question. Managing cash flow or a cash management system is really managing from the point of revenue what I make on a gross margin. That's all of my direct cost, man, material, and sundries that go above the line to get to a gross margin. And then really figuring out how much gross margin I have that will cover all my overheads, leading to a net profit. And the rest of it's on the balance sheet side. It's all cash over the arc of receivable or payable. And I have clients that pay their payables faster than receivables, which is a cardinal sin, right? Your receivables come in 45 days and you're making payables in 30, you're 15 days light on covering just the direct cost side of your business. And I don't want to geek out. This is a radio show. So I want to make sure that I don't get into like really complex financial management issues without boring your audience to tears.
Well, I doubt you will, because I think half of them are probably in that situation where they're going, but all of my suppliers are going, yeah, you're on, cash in 30 days. And it's like,
everybody's 30 days.
Right.
And you as a business owner offer 30 days. And how many people pay you in 30 and how many people do you pay in 30 is the question, right? If you realize that most everybody else is paying you in 45 and you're paying in 30, well, how is your bank of you covering the 15 days in between those two numbers? And that's why people go feast, famine, feast, famine, feast, famine, feast, famine. They don't manage the process of their business. They do great at business, but they don't manage the process of the business. Let me say that better.
Yeah. So are there any businesses that you've noticed have a more difficult time of this? Like, is it a retail thing? Is it a high-end retail thing? Like, I can't imagine for the life of me owning an RV dealership going, oh yeah, you only need cash flow of several million to be able to bring more inventory on site. Like, yep. I just can't imagine.
Because we manage such a diverse grouping of clients. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're in the construction industry. We're in engineers and architects. We do all of the trade groups. We do manufacturing, and anything you could imagine that is made, we have clients in that space. Trucking and transportation, from a logistics company, 3PL, third-party logistics, on the way through to an asset carrier that's rolling long haul or regional. Technology companies who some design the software and some actually implement the hardware. So, when you ask me a question like that, because of the diversity of entrepreneurs that I get a privilege of working with, every industry has specific benchmarks or measurement process that are considered the norm, right? And, starting with engineering profit, because in my opinion, profit isn't something that happens to us as business owners. You actually have to reverse engineer from here's what I want to make to this is all what I get to spend. Sorry to put it in lay terms like that, but it's true. People treat profit like it's this residual thing that at some point in time, if I just sell enough, I must be able to make money. And, if a client's already losing money and it costs them $1.03 to make a part and they sell more of it, they just go broker faster. And they're playing this cash flow game inside of their business, and they don't realize how broke they're going.
I
I had
can't
a
help but
client that was,
thinking it's like somebody thinking the more sex I have, eventually I'll have an orgasm. It's like, well, that may or may not be true.
you better
You
check your
really got to
partner.
focus on the S. You focus on what you really want, then you'll probably more odds are you're going to get it. And if you think
What
of it that way, in business would be a lot more fun to be thinking about profit. I'll tell you that much.
and what, you keep going back to the same one, hoping it's going to get better.
Exactly. So when people are looking at their books and they're going, okay, I've seen a P&L top to
Yep.
bottom, what are they looking for that helps them to go, something's not right in Kansas?
Convert your entire P&L over into percentages. Like, it doesn't matter what the big number says. If you look at the percentages, if you go into your QuickBooks, and probably 80% of the people listening to this conversation have QuickBooks, right? Open up your QuickBooks. There's a feature in there where you can change everything to percentages. So if you start thinking in the terms of my material is 30%, that's how I bid it. And then I'm seeing my P&L and my percentage is really 35% or 37%. You might have missed a change order. You might not have handled the billing correctly. You might have. So most people look at raw numbers and get lost in this big number instead of looking at a percentage, which as a business owner, that's what you're trying to manage. If you want to make 10% profit, you better convert every other cost in your business to a percentage.
Well, and I know that there's a lot of businesses out there that don't look at or don't account for certain things. I mean, it was weird when I first ran a restaurant even, and you would think that that would be a normal thing to go, okay, well, how much does lettuce cost? What's our cost on this? And there are seasons, especially if you're not in lettuce growing country, that lettuces can be 3 times cost than it is when you're doing your books.
In season.
And yeah. And if your costs are going up 3 times from where they're at, your P&L year to date is going to be a little out of, like, you're not going to be able to see that little nuance and go, okay, there's got to be something we can do about this.
So classic mistake, and I'll let you bring up restaurant, and those are my least favorite because they're very, very hard.
They're hard.
But I have some restaurateurs.
Yep.
The wastage, as an example, in restaurant is probably one of the most critical things that most restaurateurs do not account for. They know what their cost of goods are, but they're not accounting in their pricing of their plates how much wastage that they're having to account for in that price of plate. So, total number of tables turned, total number of dishes going through the kitchen. Same thing works that way in manufacturing as it does in construction. If you're not attributing for all of the, what I'll call accessorial costs associated with doing your business, or you end up lumping it into a single bucket that gives you no control over it, you got to ask yourself, do I really know everything that's in that cost bucket? That's why I said, if you turn it to a percentage, the easiest way to imagine this, Michelle, is if I know it's supposed to be 30% and every single month I see 30.2%, 30.1%, 29.7%, it's within a margin of error, right? If all of a sudden it goes up, that's the trigger that makes you go look. It's kind of like the analogy you just get. Eventually you're going to get out of bed and go, well, that wasn't that good. So
you can't even say it. It's hilarious. Yes, so we've all had those moments when we get out of bed and go, oh, do I really run this business? Oh,
I had to go back to the blue pill. I'm just saying.
You gotta. Exactly. And it becomes so hard though when you're walking the walk of shame to your office in the morning going, I can't believe I run this company. It's not what I thought it was going to be, and it's not what I thought it was going to do. And
That's
then
the
when
entrepreneurial journey.
right, you just got to understand that that's part of it. And for some of us, it happens like every 5 years, and some of us more frequently, some less. But then you bring somebody like you in to be able to look at it, and you're like, hey, it's actually not that bad.
You know, somewhere along the portrait of life, right? Because most entrepreneurs, you got to understand this. And I'm old, fat, and gray now, right? So that's the story I'm going to stick to. The the 58 years of my life, almost, let me not kick myself over the bridge yet, 57 years of life, you know, I think there's a difference between smart and wise. And 20 plus of those years, I have been representing small business. And I've come with one universal truth. Entrepreneurs are the greatest people on the face of the planet, right? They're honorable, they're decent, they're hardworking. Don't get me wrong. There's some folks in the margin of error that I'll go, oh yeah, run fast. Kind of like the other story we just told. But by and large, they're really good, hardworking people with a dream. And they have this idea of what business is supposed to be. And that's why I think most businesses fail in the first 5 years. Right. And I always tell people this: 8 out of 10 businesses fail in the first 5. And of the remaining 2 left standing, one of those 2 is going to fail by year 10. And it's not because it wasn't a good idea. It's not because you didn't have heart. It's not because you were a decent person. But if you don't follow the principles of managing the business and you just are really good at what you do, you can convert a marketable skill into business ownership. No question about it. Seen it thousands of times. But at some point in time, you reach that level of effectivity, right? And this show is really about how do you get it up and keep it up. So, you know, getting that first $1 million worth of revenue, that okay, great, you got to 7 figures. Well, the next goal is on scale is how to go from 7 figures at $1 million to 7 figures at $3 or $4 million. And if you're really trying to scale your company, now all those really, you know, dirty, nasty words like managing your business come into play. Now you're managing other people effectively to produce a product and keep the vision and culture and everything that you believe your business was supposed to be. Now you're getting into recruiting behaviors and retention behaviors and training behaviors. And what culture do you want to have in your company? What do you stand for? What do you believe? How do I get all these people to show up to work every day and actually follow what I've got in my head? Well, the funny part about that story is it can't be in your head. You have to commit to communication. You have to commit to leadership. You have to commit to communicating a culture and a vision for your company. And then there has to be a measurement process that allow other people to know whether they're successful or failing, right? Measurement isn't about lording over people. It's about setting standards and standards by which other people can live and be successful. Most employees are like entrepreneurs. They want to do well for their company. They want to do well for their boss. They want to be successful. Sorry for the long diatribe, but you know, you're touching a passion point. No pun intended.
So peeps, no matter how good your head is, you still got to get out of your head.
Yeah. And you see how we got right back here, right?
Exactly. So when it comes to a business, like I mentioned earlier, it's every 3 or 4 years, you kind of hit these stumbling blocks if you're growing and changing. And it's important to see that it's not always going to be perfect. You can't fix your problems in business once. There are different levels of business whereby, oh, now we have a different issue that we're going to, you know, take on and roll. And I can't overemphasize the importance of being able to make a decision quickly and proving yourself right. Because as you move up in that business ownership in the CEO's space, it is so important to get in the habit, or have the habit by then, to be able to make these decisions, because now you're not working in your business doing the day-to-days
on it.
But now you have to see the bigger pictures and go, oh, now I'm going to step into a level of incompetency where I just feel like I'm swimming around in Vaseline and I'm not really sure where this is going. And to be able to stand up, pick yourself up and go, oh, okay, this is an awesome experience again. So
that's the amazing entrepreneur. You just described the amazing entrepreneur. It's that ability to recognize those shortcomings and challenge yourself to conquer them that I've always found to be inspiring. Sorry, I interrupted you. I apologize.
Not at all. This is great. So when people are making those decisions, they're seeing, okay, when I grow to, I can look at the statements, I got them into ratios, I can see where things are moving. Now I realize I have to get those systems in place. We have the systems in place. Oh, culture kind of sucks. I got to start hiring people for attitude, not necessarily competence. If you could kind of put them in a staircase, and I don't know if you can, it might be cyclical and you just got to keep looking at things, but if you could put them in a staircase of priorities, what might that be?
So I'm going to use Cogent Analytics anecdotally in this story because it's easy to draw from a personal experience. In 2014, I started with 6 people and a great idea. Right today, we have 270 employees and we're in 36 different states. And every single year, and for the speed of our growth, typically once a month, but most especially on a comprehensive basis, about once a quarter, we have to sit down and reevaluate. Is revenue consistent? Is it repeatable? And can we count on it to continue on the trend that it is, right? Because that's how much money is raining from the sky. Given a yes or no to that question is going to determine what you do next as far as human resources. And you and I could do a whole show on human resources, so I'm going to distill it down in this way. You hire people for aptitude, culture, and some element of their ability to take responsibility for a particular role or responsibility within your company. And if any one of those 3 things are out of whack, you got to go back to the well. I always tell the fishing story, right? If I'm in a fishing competition, then I go fishing and I pull in a 10-inch fish. And the rules of the fishing competition is I got to have a 12-inch fish. Michelle, I know you're going to make a
That's
ha-ha
a rough
in about 2 seconds. Got to be a 12-inch fish. Anecdotally speaking, having the ability to throw the fish back in, because you can't put a 10-inch fish in your well. I mean, you can, but it doesn't get measured, right? There's no victory in the 10-inch fish. So then it's about managing what you do, how you do, when you do, why you do to produce a profitable product. Every single business owner prices goods, services. It's either goods or services, right? Some durable, hard good or service that you do in the market space. All of your costs associated with that good and services is all about efficiency. If you say you can do it for $10, you got to figure out how to do it for 9, right? You bid it for 10, you got to figure out how to do it for 9. Because if you bid it for 10 and do it for 11, you're losing money. Okay?
Yep.
So I always try to tell people that last exercise of measurement is so important and critical. Because again, if it's in your head and you can't actually measure it, there's an old adage in business that says you can't manage what you don't measure. I know you want to make the joke. Go ahead.
I'm going to get you off track so bad. And then people listening to this going, what the hell were you talking about? I lost my train of thought and I don't want you to lose your train of thought.
Was it the fish or was it the measurement of the head?
You're never going to hear that analogy the same way again. So peeps, if you only have a 10-inch fish, it doesn't mean it's completely useless, but you do have to throw it back and maybe a couple of years from now you can go back to it.
You'll grow up to a big boy fish.
Exactly. Everyone's going, oh my God, standards. They're so high all of a sudden. Now, taking the analogy back to business does mean that you have to have those high of standards, but it does mean that you have to be looking at your business in a way that is constructive and at that level of business that you're at, and understanding that it's going to change. It has to. You can't.
The more you grow, the farther away you will get from the doing of a thing. Because when you start your business, everybody does their thing and they do it to make a living.
Mm-hmm.
But good, bad, and different. If you're honest and you're integritous and you build a good thing, people are going to want you to do more of it.
Yes, they are.
Well, then you got to go through the challenge of hiring people and getting all of those people to do that thing you've got in your head. And this is where it gets sticky, right? This is where those challenges and problems come
I
in.
love talking to you.
The business, Michelle.
Right.
So this is where it becomes problematic, because as every business owner will tell you, the larger you get, the farther away you get from that thing. And to begin with, you get to manage all these people doing that thing you had in your head. And at some point in time, you start promoting middle management, which is responsible to manage the people doing the thing. Again, you're one step farther removed. When you get to that, usually $5 million, $10 million, and let me get away from revenue, number of employees. When you get beyond 12 to 15 employees, your sphere of influence shrinks, right? It makes it much harder to manage all the things that those 15 people are doing. So that's that first risk point or inflection point for most small business owners, is right around that 10 to 15 employee base bench line. And you'll see a lot of people climb to that, what I'll call $1.5 million threshold, and they just get stuck, and they'll be that $1.5 million company for 10 years. And they don't make any more money doing that thing. It's like a glorified job. It really takes a more dynamic, proactive position towards business to hit the next break point, which is around 25 employees. And then it's about 25 to 50. So as you reimagine your business, and yes, you will have to do that with frequency. I said we do it every quarter or every month to a little extent, and every quarter to a much deeper degree because of the speed of our growth. Most business owners should be able to do that a couple times a year at bare minimum. Because if they're genuinely scaling their business, being honest with the person you shave with in the morning, i.e. yourself, that's the first challenge, right? If you're just got your head down and doing what you do, you're always going to get what you got.
Thanks. Okay, I will mention the whole shaving thing. I think it might have been Bezos, or it might have been somebody else that recently mentioned, though, when you're running a company, your goal and objective is to make as few decisions as possible, because you really want your frontline people making the majority of decisions. As you go up, you're putting people in place that are making the day-to-day decisions, and you're in a position to make fewer decisions, but that have a more cataclysmic or a more impactful decision on the growth of the business and the direction of the business.
Spot on. Yeah, I always tell the key story, right? When you first start in your career, you graduate college and you get a job and somebody hands you a key. It's usually the key to get in the front door. Hey, welcome aboard, kid. And if you're good at what you do, they start handing you more keys. Well, with each key that they hand you comes more responsibility, right? So you're growing up as a manager, and somebody hands you the key to the broom closet, and then they give you a key to the inventory room, and then they give you a key to the truck. But they start handing you keys. Now, you ever notice that guy walking around the building that's got the key ring with like 75 keys on it? That's typically your middle manager, because they got keys to everything. Well, the funny part about it is you go up one step from there, you're the guy starting to give your keys away. Now, the goal in life is to start with one key and end with one key, because if you've truly built an organization that every decision within your company is made without you having to overmanage it or micromanage it, and you've got one key left to the front door, now you've positioned your company. And classically, your company is worth multiple times more in a circumstance than if you're just a doer. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs start a business, then we talk about selling their business, but they are their business and the company has no value. That's the hardest conversation in the world to have with an entrepreneur, is what value are they instilling in their company?
Nice. So let's talk about the business strategy decision. How does somebody know something like, oh, we're going to change our CRM? Is that the IT's decision? Is that like, how did they know when a strategic decision is no longer a CEO decision, but it's their teams? And or are there certain decisions that should always be the CEO's decision, not necessarily the department heads?
So I will give you this, right? I have in my 260, 270 people, at the stage where most of my directors will bring solutions to me as opposed to me dictating solutions. Now, we do that at a director's level. I can also remember the day when I literally wore every hat, touched every person. I always tell the story. I still do interviews with new members that come
You're
aboard
not
and
allowed
give
to
them an
touch your
hour.
employees anymore.
Yeah, that's kind of a red card. Um, which is funny because I got a yellow card and a red card right over here on my windowsill. Yellow card, no. Um, it should be, depending on your scale. You know, the natural entrepreneurial behaviors, you're gonna want to control the things that are within what you can touch. Yes, I said touch. But at the end of the day, as you get bigger, if you're really going to empower your people, the relationship should change where they're bringing you solutions, not problems. And that's where a lot of people get stuck because they're so covetous of making all those little decisions. They get caught up in the thick of thin things, right? They're not actually managing their business. Their business owns them more than they own it. And I guarantee there's somebody listening to this podcast today that it's saying, holy cow, that describes me.
Absolutely, there is. So I know they're going to want more from you. How did they start that journey with you?
Very easy. It's Cogent, Cogent analytics.com. And come to our website. We have professional advisors. And Michelle, you and I have done a couple of shows together. That we have professional advisors that staff our phones. It doesn't cost people to call. If you've got a business question and you're a business owner, you can call Cogent Analytics. You can drop us a note. You can send us a line directly through our call to action forms on our website. But there are people on staff every single day to help entrepreneurs. That's our mission. That's our value. That's raise others up and you will rise is what we frequently say. So the other way is if you still use a rotary dial phone, you could call 1-833-4MY-PROFIT. That's the number for my profit. But, you know, most people don't use the rotary dial anymore.
They don't even recognize that there's little letters on there. That's awesome.
Yeah, I love talking to a 40-year-old because they're like, can I Discord you or email you or chat with you or SMS you? Or I'm like, you want to call me? Because this is a pretty complex discussion. And I don't think we want to do that on email, but I've got to talk to you.
That's awesome. We will, of course, have all of Robert's links in the show notes. So go ahead and scroll down, click on the link, open up in a new browser because we're not done yet. But I want to talk to you about kind of teams that would work with you. So you do the analytics. Are you doing the numbers? Do you do the tax strategy? Do you do who would you have in an ideal partnership at the table with a CEO and go, like, this is how this is going down? Or is it your team and you just kind of rock and roll?
No, we deal with the business owner themselves first and foremost. Yes, we will interact with an entire team of individuals, but every conversation in my mind starts with an entrepreneur because let's be candid, Michelle, people don't want a better business. They want what the better business will do for them and their family and their employees and their families. So if I don't know what a client wants, how the heck can I tie this imagine your business conversation if it isn't directly tied to their life? So in our world, it's not just business, 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 business. It's the client, right? So outside of that, you know, when we look at a company and somebody is genuinely trying to get either break a mold, get out of the rut they're in, climb farther, faster, those are all great conversations. And what you try to do is you tie the gaps in their business. What are those things that are holding them back? What are the roadblocks? What are those impingement points going on in their company? And it's a holistic. I always say to people, I don't care. I'll do a discovery with every single business owner on the planet because we serve entrepreneurs. That doesn't always mean consulting is a good fit for them. And that's where I'm trying to disrupt the model. If you go look at Cogent Analytics, we do marketing, we do tax services, we do accounting and fractional CFO work, we do core consulting operationally, we do business development consulting. We have internal members that work on all of the data and analytics that go along with running a business. So we kind of become this comprehensive solution as opposed to a thing. And that's we are currently the only provider in America that does all of the holistic services that a small business owner would need from the day they open the door to the time they succeed that business.
Nice. I love that because it makes it so difficult to just go, oh, I need this tactic, and then not have the ability to be able to put it all together. Whereas
Amen.
when you guys are there and you have it, it's like, yay, I can just live in my sweet spot and have the support there that's needed. That is awesome. I love it when a company works like that.
That is me falling off the truck and bumping my head because I had this crazy vision that you see all these people, like none of their professionals talk with each other. And it's so hard to get a singular solution because everybody's telling you something different. Now, we will work with people's accountants, we'll work with their attorneys. It's got to be a holistic approach, and all of the advisors need to be on the same page, or it becomes this, who's better. Sorry, I used to wish I could sing. Now you do.
It's so true because everybody's got their thing that they want to sell as opposed to the solution that the entrepreneur needs to be provided. And getting that magic moment together is really, it's almost impossible in business, but until you find somebody like Robert who has the ability to be able to set those up, which I love. Awesome.
I always tell my people, when you call a client, if you're talking about a solution that you want them to do, as opposed to asking them about what they're trying to accomplish, you're serving yourself, not them. And that is so pervasive in the professional services world, where it's about me and my pockets and how I can figure out how to give you a solution that you'll pay me for. And I just think that's so twisted. Right? If we're in the game of representing other people, then how we represent them, not just their business, in my mind, becomes critically important.
I love it. I could have a love fest with you all day long. You know that, but you've been absolutely awesome. So any last pillow talk for our peeps?
Work hard. Don't quit climbing the mountain. Don't get your feet stuck in mud, because adversity is a moment in time. It doesn't define who you are. What you do next does. So God bless every entrepreneur listening to this phone call, because I love you guys profoundly, right? It is the greatest journey of my life, is the chance to represent other people that have shared spirit as I do. And I know what suck looks like, and I also know what great looks like. And just because you happen to be in that moment where you're going, wow, this is pretty tough, doesn't mean you have to live there. So with that, I will say, Michelle, you're amazing to do a show with, and thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and I know how valuable your time is. Awesome. Peeps, this is Michelle Nedelec, your mistress in business. Thank you for being here today. Be sure to subscribe to the show and invite your friends so, we can help you all get it up. We love having you here. Thank you for listening to the Little Blue Pill for Business podcast with your mistress in business, Michelle Nedelec. Why are you still here? Go to littlebluepillforbusiness.com and get your goodies. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to share it with somebody else that you know would enjoy getting it up in business. After you subscribe to the podcast, of course, so you won't miss any future episodes. Now, check the notes for links. Oh, and only tell your wife if she's into this, entrepreneurship. And I'll see you both on the other side.